Tonight, the students from Cedar International will be leading us in our national anthem and the territorial song.
Out of the huts of history's pain, our ancestors bled and died. But with strength and willpower we overcame to restore the Virgin Islands' pride. To preserve our beauty we devised a plan to maintain ownership of this precious land. Educating your people is the golden key to maintain the success of this territory. Oh, how radiant are your daughters, and how wealthy are your sons. Your beaches boast your beauty, and your success is second to none. Green and brilliant are your hillsides, they replenish our hopes and pride. Oh, beautiful Virgin Islands, your qualities can never be denied. May God richly bless this territory. May we ask three things of thee: courage for our leaders, that they may rule our destiny. We ask for wisdom for our people, that they may live in harmony. And understanding for our children, that they may cherish this legacy. Oh, how radiant are your daughters, and how wealthy are your sons. Your beaches boast your beauty, and your success is second to none. Green and brilliant are your hillsides, they replenish our hopes and pride. Oh, beautiful Virgin Islands, your qualities can never be denied. Oh, beautiful Virgin Islands, your qualities can never be denied. God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save our Queen. Thank you.
My name is Connie George, and I'm here with you to moderate tonight's opening, and then I will turn it over to Mr. Cromwell Smith, who will take us through the debate tonight. So welcome one and all to our semi-finals in our annual school debates. Today is Wednesday, 21st January 2015. So it's still in time for me to say Happy New Year to everyone. And I trust that this year would be an exceptional one for each one of you. Our topic tonight is the impact of climate change will destroy our tourism industry. And the pleasure is mine, as usual, to introduce our moderator, Cromwell Smith, also known as Eduenka, is the Managing Director of Media One, a media production company. He is the producer and host of the radio show Umoja, and the television show Spotlight, and is known for his community activism. He has served on many boards and committees and is presently a member of the Board of Governors of the H. Lavity Stout Community College, a member of the Board of Directors of the BVI Chamber of Commerce and Hotel Association, and a member of the BVI Reading Council. Mr. Smith is also a recipient of the Paul Harris Fellow Award from the Rotary Club of Tortola for exemplary community service. When it comes to service to his community, Mr. Smith can be called upon within a moment's notice. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome and turn our program over to Mr. Cromwell Smith. Let's welcome him.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, Connie George. Peace and blessings, everyone, and we're going to have a interesting debate this evening. The debates over the last several years have been fantastic, and in a sense, it's disappointing that we don't see more of the community turning out to support our children, and I must say that because that's a burning passion that I feel that more of our people should come out and support our young people as they debate, because they really put on a good performance. The moot, of course, as you've heard, is the impact of climate change will destroy our tourism industry. Please welcome the debaters. As I call the names, please come to your places on the platform. For the proposition, we have Team Cedar International School. First speaker, Darissa Rogers. Second speaker, Shakima Fagan. Give them a warm welcome as they come to their stations. For the opposition, we have Team Regatta Flax Educational Center. First speaker, Anika Christopher. Second speaker, Cheyenne Richards. Please give them a warm welcome. Criteria as follows: soundness of points, 35 points; logical development, 20 points; audibility and clarity, 15 points; posture and personality, 15 points; command of material, 15 points, for a total of 100 points. Procedures: the first speakers of the proposition and the opposition have 10 minutes to present their cases. The second speaker of the proposition and the opposition have 7 minutes to present their cases. There will be a 5-minute silence for the teams to prepare their rebuttals. The first speaker of the proposition and opposition have 5 minutes for rebuttal. 5 minutes for rebuttal. The timekeeper gives a signal 1 minute before the expiration of the speaker's allotted time and at the end of the allotted time. Can we hear that sound there, Mr. Phipps? Okay, thank you. Following the rebuttals, the adjudicators will retire for their 15-minute deliberations. The auditors will collect the score sheets from the adjudicators, calculate the final scores, determine the best speaker and the winning team, and return the results to the adjudicators. Upon the return of the officials, the best speaker, adjudicator, and the chief adjudicator will each give a 5-minute constructive critique of the debaters' performances, after which the results will be revealed. Audience, of course, you have to be well behaved, applaud as each speaker is announced and each speaker finishes speaking, and when the results of the debate is announced. The audience should participate as any polite audience would, applauding and laughing at appropriate times. It gives me great pleasure, after all of that, to call on the first speaker of the proposition, Ms. Darissa Rogers, to present his case. Give her a warm welcome as she comes to the next podium.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, distinguished guests, esteemed judges, opponents, and members of the audience. My colleague and I will introduce the proposition of today's debate. The impact of climate change will destroy our tourism industry. Climate change, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is a change in global or regional climate patterns attributed largely to the increased levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide produced by the use of fossil fuels. The Virgin Islands is not a large contributor to global carbon dioxide emissions. However, even though climate change is a global problem, due to our unique geographic conditions, the Virgin Islands will feel the adverse effects of climate change more acutely. The natural world is at the center of our tourism industry, and so, inevitably, climate change will negatively affect tourism in the Virgin Islands. Honorable Omar Hodge himself said, "The Caribbean region is one of the most threatened by the phenomenon known as climate change. Climate change is not just an environmental issue. It affects the foundations on which this territory is built. Our thriving tourism industry allows us to share the unrivaled beauty of our environment with the world. Here in our beautiful home, the Virgin Islands, our tourism industry is fundamental to the economy of our great nation. Firstly, I will address the destructive environmental impact of climate change. Later, my colleague will outline the serious economic implications of climate change and the minimal impact local measures will have to mitigate the global cause. Our tourism industry is our environment. Our diverse and dazzling natural environment makes us a world-renowned destination. But when climates change, destinations disappear. Deputy Premier and Minister for Natural Resources and Labor, Dr. the Honorable Kedrick Pickering has said, "There is no tourism without the environment." Tourism in the Virgin Islands is hugely dependent upon the natural features and biodiversity of the islands. Indeed, we are known internationally as nature's little secrets. People flock to the islands to see the beautiful landscapes populated by diverse vegetation and to experience the crystal clear waters teeming with marine life, an underwater paradise for snorkelers and scuba divers. We are one of the world's premier sailing destinations due to our stable weather conditions and constant trade winds. Climate change poses a significant threat to these attributes. Climate change will destroy our environment and therefore our tourism industry. Unfortunately, it will diminish the Virgin Islands' natural attractions, the very attributes that draw hundreds of millions of dollars from tourism into our economy year after year. When climates change, destinations disappear. Changes in global temperatures affect weather patterns, leading to unpredictable conditions such as redirecting or stopping stable trade winds that makes us an internationally renowned sailing destination. There will also be an increase in extreme weather conditions. Increasingly violent tropical storms, droughts, and floods will damage the tropical vegetation and damage marine and land wildlife generally. This increased threat of tropical storms and hurricanes will detract tourists. There will no longer be a predictable hurricane season that tourists avoid. The vulnerability of the low-lying coastal communities of Anegada to global climate change is of particular concern due to rising sea levels and ever stronger hurricanes. Anegada could literally become a disappearing destination. Our beautiful beaches are voted amongst the best in the world. According to a Virgin Islands government study, a sea level rise of 1 meter will erode our beaches dramatically. Burroughs Bay will lose 93% of its beach area. Our most popular tourist beach, King Garden Bay, would lose 68% of its shoreline, taking with it all the beachfront bars and restaurants that draw in tourists. The natural splendor of our beaches is one of the main reasons tourists come to the Virgin Islands. If we lose our beaches, we lose our tourists. Increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is the primary cause of climate change and threatens our marine life. According to National Geographic, oceans have absorbed half of all man-made carbon dioxide. This excess CO2 is causing carbonic acidification of the oceans and seas in the world. This changes seawater chemistry. With ocean acidification, coral reefs will dissolve. It will make waters less habitable for fish and destroy our coral reef ecosystems. Warmer temperatures caused by climate change leads to coral bleaching. In 2005, there was a mass bleaching event and the Virgin Islands was one of the worst hit. 90% of our coral reefs experienced bleaching and 30% died. This disastrous event cost our dive sector $1,270,000, which is quarter of its annual revenue. Our current marine ecosystem is a photographer's dream. It provides amazing opportunities for diving and snorkeling, which are essential to the tourism industry. With climate change destroying our precious coral reef ecosystems, this underwater paradise will disappear, and so will our tourists. Currently, the Caribbean seas are being invaded with sargassum seaweed. In September, the Virgin Islands Ministry of Health and Social Development issued a statement that the sargassum seed, increasingly washed up along the beaches and shoreline, poses no health threat to the Virgin Islands. Although it poses no health threat, it poses a serious threat to our tourism industry. We have all seen and smelt the effects of seaweed on our favorite beaches, destroying the pristine white sand we are famous for. According to Vince Bess, an environmental scientist and lecturer at Antigua State College, increased temperature as a result of climate change is likely responsible for increased seaweed. The Marine Science Institute also predicts that changing currents, more powerful storms, and rising ocean temperatures will add to the problem. The Virgin Islands is one of the world's most desired destinations, but the destructive effects of climate change on our beautiful beaches will drive away tourists. When climate change, destinations disappear. We know that climate change is real. We understand that it has negative repercussions for our environment. We know that here in the Virgin Islands, our environment is our tourism industry. We understand that its effects will destroy our tourism industry. Thank you.
Timekeeper. Thank you very much. I now call on the opposition's first speaker, Ms. Annika Christopher, to present his case.
A 16th century proverb states, "To be forewarned is to be forearmed." What this means is, if you know about something beforehand, you can prepare for it. Mr. Moderator, honorable judges, my worthy opponents, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, climate change is now widely recognized as a major environmental problem. Therefore, there is no doubt that climate change will impact the tourism sector. However, my colleague and I stand resolute that the impact of climate change will not destroy our tourism industry. Ladies and gentlemen, for the purpose of this presentation, please allow me to clarify a few key terms. Ms. Angela Burnett Penn, Environmental Officer with the BVI Ministry of Natural Resources and Labor, in a recent presentation, used the following definition for climate change: a change of climate which is attributed directly or indirectly to human activity that alters the composition of the global atmosphere and which is observed over comparable time periods. Additionally, the following definitions were taken from the concise Oxford 10th edition dictionary. Destroy means to put an end to the existence of. Mitigate means the act of causing to become less harsh or hostile. Proactive means acting in anticipation of future problems, needs, or changes. Sustainable means harvesting or using a resource so that it is not depleted or permanently damaged. And resilience means the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. Mr. Moderator, the mood as it is suggests that climate change, a global phenomenon, will wipe out our tourism industry. Mr. Moderator, This would happen only if we are negligent and unprepared. We believe that here in the British Virgin Islands, there is plenty that is being done to mitigate the impact of climate change. That is why my colleague and I are completely convinced that the impact of climate change will not destroy our tourism industry. Mr. Moderator, our position is based on facts. In preparation for this presentation, we use the internet to find out how other islands are dealing with climate change. Additionally, we consulted local newspapers to read about what is being done locally. We also invited Ms. Angela Burnett-Penn to enlighten us on the topic of climate change. Thus, we are confident that if the British Virgin Islands continues to take sustained and early actions to address climate change, although impacts will be inevitable, their effects can be minimized. I will now expound 2 points to demonstrate that climate change will not destroy our tourism industry. 1, we have ongoing programs of mitigation that will ensure our industry will not be destroyed, but in fact, it will thrive. 2, we will show how we can mitigate 3 impacts of climate change so that our tourism product is not destroyed. My colleague will tell you more about what our government is doing and give additional information on measures being taken to mitigate other impacts. Mr. Moderator, we are not standing idly by. Firstly, in her engaging presentation, Ms. Penn outlined that here in the British Virgin Islands, an adaptation policy was approved in May 2012. Additionally, a climate change committee was approved on the 23rd of December 2008. Its mission is, and I quote, 1, to monitor and advise government of the impacts of climate change. 2, to develop adaptation policies and strategies. And 3, to support efforts to mainstream such policies and strategies into national development planning. Perhaps it is important to add here that the BVI government is encouraging other regional governments to become more unified, so that the region can participate in international forums and speak with a single strong voice on the issue of global warming and climate change. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, let us consider 3 potential impacts to our tourism industry here in the Virgin Islands and outline how various government departments in the British Virgin Islands are preparing to mitigate the impacts. Impact 1, greater risk of damage from floods, stronger storm surges, and sea level rise. Ladies and gentlemen, take King Garden Bay in the British Virgin Islands, for example. This area is prone to flooding, sedimentation, and coastal erosion. The causes include poor development decisions, beachfront developments, and changes to coastal dynamics. The solutions that will be implemented include salt pond restoration, gut maintenance, vector grass planting, and ecosystem-sensitive coastal defense. Impact 2, a decrease in agricultural yield or increased cost of production due to decreased overall rainfall. Mr. Moderator, in the island Sun of November 2014, Deputy Premier and Minister for Natural Resources and Labor, Dr. the Honorable Kendrick Pickering, has outlined the strategies for the completion and administration of the greenhouse project in the Virgin Islands. Further, in the BVI Platinum, an online newspaper, Dr. Pickering is quoting as saying that government is hopeful that the greenhouses at Paraquita Bay will begin to produce food by late 2015. Once the greenhouses are in full operation, there will be enough food for locals and tourists alike in the event that agricultural land succumbs to the ravages of climate change. We are not standing idly by. Impact 3, coral bleaching. Mr. Moderator, coral reefs provide visitors with unforgettable scuba diving and snorkeling experiences. However, coral bleaching, or the loss of color by corals, is a sign that they are undergoing some stress. Stress can be induced by many factors, some of which include increased or reduced water salinity, starvation, changes in water chemical composition, and increase or decrease of water temperature, usually ascribed to global warming. When water is too warm, corals will expel the algae living in their tissues, causing the coral to turn completely white. To mitigate the impacts of coral bleaching, we can, 1, strengthen the health of the corals by preventing anchors from destroying the reefs. 2, increase the resilience of the reefs by planting stronger species of corals. 3, practice safe and proper disposal of industrial waste. Some harmful industrial waste must be treated before being disposed of in bodies of water. 4, avoid fish nets around the reefs. Mr. Moderator, monitoring is the crucial first step we can take toward preserving our reefs. Reef Check, a volunteer coral reef monitoring program in the BVI, has been gathering data on the territory's coral reefs since 1998. Data collected by thousands of Reef Check volunteers in over 80 countries and territories report numerous success stories that have shown that when proper monitoring is combined with management and protection, coral reefs can recover and thrive once again. It is up to us. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change is a lemon, but we can make lemonade. Although climate change poses significant challenges to the Virgin Islands, we are not constrained in our ability to respond. Mr. Moderator, I have identified and explained 2 reasons why the impact of climate change will not destroy our tourism industry. They were, 1, we have ongoing programs of mitigation that will ensure our industry will not be destroyed, but in fact, it will thrive. 2, we showed how we can mitigate 3 impacts of climate change so that our tourism product is not destroyed. Mr. Moderator, we are not standing idly by. Thank you.
Thank you, timekeeper. We now call on the proposition's second speaker, Ms. Shakima Fagan, to present his case.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, distinguished guests, worthy opponents, esteemed judges, and members of the audience. My colleague has already explained to you the destructive environmental impact that climate change will have on our territory and the repercussions of this for our tourism industry. I will convince you of the devastating economic implications of climate change. I will argue that local measures will have minimal impact to mitigate the global cause of climate change. It is clear that climate change will have damaging effects on the incentives, motivations, and satisfactions of tourists that come to our territory. Tourism is one of the twin pillars of our economy, and every little bit of damage to our environment has serious repercussions for our tourism industry, which generated $274 million in 2013 alone, according to the World Travel and Tourism Council. The damaging effects of climate change on this country will drive away the tourists upon which much of our income and employment opportunities depend. Tourism plus climate change equals, tourism plus the Virgin Islands equals money. Tourism plus climate change equals money lost for the Virgin Islands. As my colleague said earlier, damage to the ecology of our precious islands will also decimate tourists' incentives to come to the Virgin Islands in the first place. Without the incentives of our beautiful environment to motivate tourists to come here in the first place, they will not come. Without our natural beauty, we cannot guarantee satisfaction. And if we can't guarantee satisfaction, our tourism industry will be destroyed. Tourists come here for sun, sand, and beautiful seas. They come here for our climate. And when that becomes unstable, so too does our economy. Additionally, it is unfeasible and unaffordable to implement all of the necessary adaptation the tourism industry needs to survive the negative repercussions of climate change, as suggested by the Virgin Islands climate change policy. As outlined in the policy, our capacity to respond is limited by a number of factors, such as limited finance and technical expertise. But the thing is, if we implemented all of the recommended adaptations, we cannot stop climate change. Within the Virgin Islands climate change policy, a recommended adaptation is to make our tourism sector green, focusing on making our prized industry carbon neutral within the next 15 years. The U.S. Energy Information Administration published a list ranking countries by their carbon dioxide emissions. China is responsible for 1/4 of the world's emissions. China is number 1. The United States is number 2. India is number 3. Russia is number 4. The Virgin Islands is number 208 down the list. There are only 3 countries in the world with less carbon dioxide emissions than we have. Huge industrial countries like China, like the United States, like India, like Russia, they are responsible for climate change. The oceans are not becoming acidic solely because of us. We cannot stop what is already a global issue. Here in the Virgin Islands, we are a sustainable community. We already have a low carbon footprint. Any measures that we put into place will only be a single drop in an increasingly polluted ocean. The tides of climate change cannot be stopped by us. It is estimated that running all of the proposed adaptation measures will cost our territory $50 million per year. This would be the equivalent of 1/6 of the $311 million budget for 2015 set by Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Dr. Orlando Smith. In 2014, climate change law and policy specialist, Mr. George DeBert Romilly, stated that it is totally unrealistic to expect the Virgin Islands can raise this additional $50 million from existing resources. This would further strain our economy. And furthermore, it would be a wasted effort because, as I said before, local measures will have minimal impact to mitigate the global cause of climate change. Other measures, such as introducing a carbon tax on tourists, will not save our tourism industry. In these hard economic times, carbon taxes actually reduce tourist incentives even further. The very point of these carbon levies is to make people think twice about their contribution to the world's carbon dioxide emissions. And if people are increasingly concerned with their carbon footprint, they will not travel from across the world to visit the Virgin Islands. Certainly, if we can no longer promise them the currently unrivaled beauty of our shores, the beauty of our beaches, the stability of our climate, the condition of our seas, the underwater paradise of our diverse marine life. These are the reasons that tourists come to the Virgin Islands. We know that our tourism industry is our environment. We understand that climate change will be devastating for our economy. We know that local measures will have minimal impact to mitigate the global cause of climate change. We understand that climate change will destroy our tourism industry. We cannot stop the tides of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, timekeeper. I now call on the opposition's second speaker, Ms. Cheyenne Richards, to present this case.
Malcolm X, the African-American human rights activist, once said, and I quote, "The future belongs to those who prepare for it today," end of quote. Mr. Moderator, honorable judges, my esteemed opponent, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we on the opposition have an unshakable determination to convince you that the impact of climate change will not destroy our tourist industry. Mr. Moderator, my opening quotation, "The future belongs to those who prepare for it today," highlights the fact that careful planning as well as acting on those plans immediately is paramount if we are to mitigate the impacts of climate change. Mr. Moderator, we are not standing idly by. We are confident that the impact of climate change will not destroy our tourism industry. I will explain these 2 reasons. 1, our leaders are well informed and proactive. 2, the Virgin Islands is improving in its ability to adapt. Firstly, Mr. Moderator, Our Minister for Natural Resources and Labor, Dr. the Honorable Kedrick Pickering, gave the opening address to the inaugural meeting of OECS Council of Ministers of Environmental Sustainability held here in October 2014. Dr. Pickering told that August body that unless serious actions were taken immediately, we in the Caribbean risk reaching a point of no return. That point, he said, could mean the loss of our coveted coastlines and some species of coral due to sea level rise and ocean acidification. It could mean the loss of our fisheries resources and the ecosystem services that our coastal and marine environment provide. These we know are crucial to the health of our tourist industry. Mr. Moderator, we are not standing idly by. Ladies and gentlemen, our Dr. Pickering is hard at work. He has already spearheaded the ban of sharks and race fishing. He has implemented a climate change awareness program where informed personnel are visiting schools and clubs. For example, the Rotaract, to build awareness. Exhibitions have also been held here. Ladies and gentlemen, in September 2014, our Minister of Communication and Works, the Honorable Mark Vanterpool, in address to the Carolec Conference, disclosed that government had developed a policy for the implementation of renewable energy for the Virgin Islands. He also said, and I quote, "The intention is to produce 30% of the territory's power supply by the year 2023. On Monday, December 29, 2014, the General Manager of the BVI Electricity Corporation announced that he had received bids from 4 companies to install solar panels on various government buildings in the territory. Allow me to mention another regional meeting which was held by Sir Richard Branson in February 2014, where 10 countries and territories agreed to work with Sir Richard Branson's Carbon War Room to increase their use of renewable energy. Mr. Moderator, we are not standing idly by. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, the Virgin Islands is working towards increasing its resilience to the impacts of climate change in the tourism sector by improving its ability to adapt. A climate change committee, already mentioned by my colleague, was established in 2008, and it includes as many as 15 organizations or departments here in the Virgin Islands. This committee has been working on the territory's first climate change legislation, which will create a trust fund to support programs to help offset local impacts. Its climate change adaptation policy was approved in May 2012. One of the measures outlined in the policy is to reduce local impacts to coastal and marine resources. This can be done through preventing salt pond filling, preventing mangrove removal, marine pollution, and coral reef anchor damage. In addition, the Virgin Islands can be promoted as a green destination, a place where people are involved in water conservation methods, energy conservation, renewable energy installation, and green certification programs. The Tourist Board has been a leader in this area. It has been very active in becoming more environmentally friendly and encouraging properties and locals to become more environmentally sensitive. The board has held a trash to treasure competition for students, a sustainable tourism environmental program for small properties, and a sustainable tourism workshop. Ladies and gentlemen, these are just 2 of the measures given in the adaptation policy. These will go a long way towards mitigating the impact of climate change. Mr. Moderator, perhaps you noticed that adapting to the impact of climate change forces us to be more progressive and innovative. Our economies will become sustainable as a result. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, what I showed you is that 1, our leaders are well informed and proactive, and 2, the Virgin Islands is improving in its ability to adapt. We are not standing idly by. I thank you.
Time, 5 minutes, 48 seconds.
Okay, I tell you, it's a hot debate, difficult debate, but very creatively done. We'll now have complete silence starting right now for the debaters to prepare their rebuttals. Please be quiet. Thank you, Mr. Timekeeper. I now call on the opposition's first speaker, Ms. Annika Christopher, to present its rebuttal.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, the fashionable peddlers of doom would have you believe that the impact of climate change would absolutely unequivocally wipe out our tourism industry. But I implore you, do not be swayed by their pessimistic outlook. They do not have all the answers. The leader of the proposition said that the intense hurricanes would destroy our beaches, and that this in turn will discourage our tourists. Mr. Moderator, impact assessments have been undertaken of some of our beaches, and the resorts state that some beaches and beachfront properties will be swept into the ocean. However, where properties are located far from the beaches, the seawater can be accommodated further inland. In other words, some of our beaches would survive. At present, people are being encouraged to build away from the beaches or on pillars. I would like to discuss what happened in Anegada when Hurricane Earl struck the territory in August 2010. In a magazine, VI Property and Yacht, we learned that 7 beachfront cottages from Anegada's seaside villas on the island's west end began to slowly slip into the sea. However, hundreds of geobags or sandbags were used to corral the converging sand to effectively rebuild the beach. Although workers fought against opposing currents and the skepticism of a few, the seemingly impossible task of reclaiming the beach and taking back the villas was accomplished. Kristen Juradin, commercial dive manager, believes that the existing sandbags will hold strong, keeping the beaches rejuvenated without maintenance for up to 15 years. Mr. Moderator, this is just one example to show that even though a hurricane wreaks havoc on a few of our beaches, these can be repaired without wiping out our tourism industry. Perhaps I should add here that there is a lot more to the tourism industry than the beaches. In other words, damage to the beaches does not mean the entire industry will be destroyed. After all, one swallow does not a summer make. The leader of the proposition said that our coral reefs would suffer. They would be damaged. But damaged and destroyed are different things. They would be destroyed if we do nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, Reef Check has been monitoring our coral reefs since 1998. The research shows that coral reefs can recover and their health maintained. It is also possible for healthy, strong species to adapt to changing conditions, as some strains are more resilient to coral bleaching. The proposition said that vast sums of money would be needed. Mr. Moderator, we are not so naive as to overlook the fact that funding would be necessary. What we said was that the Virgin Islands Climate Change Trust Fund is the territory's response to addressing the long-term financing of adaptation and mitigation measures. It is a public-private partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, if we concentrate on our tourism product, we can diversify and find other interesting things for our visitors to do. Some of these are: 1, development of undersea wrecks, like Wreck Alley in the Bahamas. 2, development of trails, for example, to Gorda Peak and Brewers Bay. 3, restoration and visit to plantation ruins, for example, the sugar mill at Nail Bay. 4, development of health tourism based on the use of local herbs, and so on. Mr. Moderator, Our people, our government, even our private enterprises have already invested too much for our industry to be ruined. They have already and still are investing in measures aimed at mitigating the impact of climate change. We are forging ahead. We are not standing idly by. Thank you.
4 minutes, 25 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Timekeeper. I now call on the proposition's first speaker, Ms. Darissa Rogers, to present its rebuttal.
Although we as a proposition appreciate your thoughts, we must disagree on the following points. Firstly, our opponent stated that it is up to us to fix the problem. But it is not up to us. It is up to the large industrial countries responsible for the large amounts of carbon dioxide emissions that are being emitted into the atmosphere. Our opponents also mentioned that we should promote the BVI as a green destination. Renewable energy, water conservation, and so forth are all positive things that we should be doing, but they will not prevent climate change, and so they cannot save our tourism industry. They also talked about a climate change trust fund. This is dependent upon international donors. How can we convince other countries to continue to give us money for climate change adaptations when they will need it for the same reason in their own countries? Although we can do things here in reaction, our opponent stated that climate change is a global problem. Any measures we take will not have significant impact. People come here to escape winter. If there are warmer winters elsewhere, there will be less incentives for our tourists to come to the Caribbean. Lastly, our opponent stated that climate change will not affect our tourism industry. Just over a few hundreds of years ago, temperature and carbon dioxide had this relationship where when carbon dioxide increased, temperature also increased. When carbon dioxide decreased, temperature also decreased. So they had a relationship like this. But just over the past few decades to present day, that relationship spiked. And that spike is because of human activities. That is how we know climate change is real. That is why the Virgin Islands has a climate change adaptation policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Timekeeper. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And it's time to find out our winners. So I'd like to ask at this time our chief adjudicator for Best Speaker, Ms. Charlene Dabrio, to come forward and give a brief critique of our Best Speaker and announce the Best Speaker winner.
Good night, everyone. It was a truly exciting event. I was invited just 2 days ago, so it's my first event, first debate in the BVI, and I think I'm very fortunate to be among some extremely bright young people. I believe that both schools were, I believe that both schools did a lot of work in preparing the students, and that was very obvious. And from my own involvement with these two schools, it's very obvious when you go to these schools the level of intelligence among these children, and it was displayed here today. Now, in terms of Best Speaker, I would just say some comments generally. From the proposition, you saw that a lot of work was put into how the children presented, the eye contact, the use of gestures, the use of focus on articulating the words. So that came out very strong from the proposition. The opposition, again, there was a lot of work that was put into ensuring that the children were confident, that they were structured in their presentation, that there was eye contact, that there was movement towards the moderator. A lot of that you saw, there was a lot of work put into that. So I'm just going to go straight to the individual that we felt was the best presenter. This individual was very clear, connected a lot of the effects with the consequences, very, very calm and persuading presenter, extremely good audio. I was caught, she caught me focusing on her. She kept good eye contact. There was not a lot of reading. Very calm individual, very soft movement of gestures, very simplified language. Her voice levels went up and down. If I close my eyes and I listen to her, she had these fantastic sound bites that you would pick up from somebody like Cromwell, who's on TV. You listen for these things, and she brought that out very strongly. And she held the attention of the audience to the end. It was fantastic to see her go into the audience with the eye contact and say, this is what I want to tell you, and this is what I want you to believe. And I felt that coming out from her presentation. And that was Shanika Fagan of Cedar School.
I'd like to now ask our Chief Adjudicator, Mr. Denniston Fraser, to come and give his brief critique of the debate and select our debate winner this evening, who of course will be going to the finals in March, I think it is.
Good evening, everyone. I too am a little bit disappointed that we don't have a full house here tonight. I think, and this is not part of my prepared speech, but I was just thinking that if I was the Minister of Education, I would probably make this mandatory for all the schools to have some portion of their grade in school, apportioned to events such as this. But that's me. I want to say congratulations to both teams. I thought that you both did very well, and you should be congratulated. Let's give both teams a round of applause. In particular, especially with the opening, when we had an interference from, I think, the noise across the street, I was beginning to lose focus, and I quickly, caught myself. And the young ladies stood here, the first two in particular, and through that, they concentrated and they just pushed their way. I really want to applaud you for not letting even that distract you. The proposition, first speaker, we thought that she, good use of quotes from both the Honorable Dr. the Honorable Kedrick Pickering and Mr. Omar Hodge. We thought it was politically balanced there, both sides. And the sound points, I thought, throughout the entire speech, developed and connected the topic to the tourism product, and this was seen throughout the speech, which was very good. The government study that was spoken of concerning the Cane Garden Bay and Bruce Bay in terms of what they would lose for climate change, that was a good connecting point there, but we thought it could have been developed more in terms of a little bit more detail there in terms of the department that did it, and a little more, just a little bit more detailed, rather than just stating that it was a government study where you acquire this information and so forth. But generally good eye contact, adequate eye contact. In the opposition, first speaker looked a little bit nervous at first, but came out eventually pretty good, and in the second rebuttal was very, very good on that, so that nervousness just disappeared. We thought that there were some long definitions in the speech there, which kind of lost connectivity a bit there. Good summary though, ongoing programs of mitigation, really, really good summary for the opposition. And the second speaker for proposition, there was definitely evidence of detailed research, very connected to the topic. We felt your passion for the topic. And we liked how you connected the financial impact of climate change with the budget. The opposition second speaker, good analysis of what the government is doing to negate the maleffects of climate change. Timing, in general, was very good for everyone. We also liked how you linked the local, what we call current examples from the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Ministry of Communication and Works. In terms of the rebuttal, opposition, lots of local examples again of what can happen. We thought you presented well. Your hand movements at that time came out more comfortable on the stage. Good command, recalling of the points that was raised, and able to anticipate basically what the other team was going to be advancing. So we really thought that maybe you had seen the script before of what the other team had advanced. But we thought that it was really good in that you did recall and anticipate basically what that team would advance. The proposition rebuttal, strong in opening, but we thought there were some challenges, possibly loss of focus. The closing argument with the point on the oscillation was great, but we thought it would have been a knockout if you had just built on that point, realized that time probably was, a factor there in terms of you thinking about time. But generally, the opposition, the proposition was very poised. Brigado Flax basically looked at the moderator when they were addressing the moderator, which we liked. We also thought that technically they were more sound in referring to local examples. But good debate overall. We would like to congratulate. We gave our scores to the tabulator there, and they came up with the scores, the totals. And the totals we have here for the proposition CEDAR, 649.5 points, and the opposition, Brigado Flax, 668 points. Congratulations to Brigado Flax.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Finalists, Brigado Flax Educational Center. Certainly was an exciting debate, very close debate, and we had to have a winner. Congratulations to both teams, and special congratulations to Brigado Flax. Give them another round of applause. I have to say that we have to do more to promote these debates, and I can't stress that enough, that the promotion could be better, the community participation needs to be better. We cannot continue to say negative things about our children if we don't support them in the positive things that they're doing. And I just want to encourage the Ministry of Education and Culture, Youth Affairs and Sports to put a little more focus on getting the message out about how great these debates are and how well our children have come to learn to make these presentations and engage in this particular activity. So again, one more round of applause for the debaters. This brings to our conclusion the debate on the topic on the moot, the impact of climate change will destroy our tourism industry. I now turn the proceedings back over to our chairperson, Teacher Connie George.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We want to thank you. Put your hands together for Mr. Cromwell Smith. a wonderful job that he does every time he comes to us. Before I call and before I say anything else, I want to say congratulations and thank you so much to CEDA International. You did an excellent job. Put your hands together for CEDA International. And I also want to say the same thing to Brigada Flax Educational Center. Great job. You did a good job. And like it was said before, we can see a lot of work went into the preparation of the students. And we are so thankful that you are taking it seriously and bringing the students out in something that's healthy and wholesome. I want to, before I call Mr. Pasco to do the vote of thanks, what I have in my hand is a topic for the final, and I want to invite a representative from Elmo Stout High School who will be challenging the Brigada Flax Educational Center in the final debate. Could you come forward? And I want this audience here, because I'm opening the packet in front of you, and I too will be hearing what the topic is for the first time. I want them to come and select from this envelope, you as the witness, and somebody from here, Brigada Flax, please come. And then we will hear what the topic is, and do invite somebody else to come back with you on the date of the final. Just put your hand in and take out one, and you will be saying to all of us what your side is. Open it. All right, read yours.
The changing global landscape will negatively impact financial services in the Virgin Islands. We are the opposition.
We are the proposition, and the topic is the changing global landscape will negatively impact financial services in the Virgin Islands.
Okay, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be back for our final debate. We want you to listen for the announcements, because we will be trying our very, very best to promote it and have this auditorium at least half filled on that date when it comes. But we are sending the students back and the schools back to begin their preparations immediately. So thank you again, and now I will invite Mr. Pasco to come and give the vote of thanks.
Good night to everyone. I recognize the protocol already established. I would like to say a heartfelt thank you to the Minister of Education and Culture, the Honorable Myron V. Walwyn, for holding these debates. Thank you to the students of CEDA International for rendering the national anthem and territorial song. Our sincerest gratitude to Mrs. Connie George for giving us the welcome, the prayer, and the introduction of the moderator. Our evening was very well spent. Thank you to the capable hands of Mr. Cromwell, Ajunko Smith. Your valuable input and charm contributed as usual to the richness of this experience this evening. I'm sure that you all agree that with me, our panel of adjuncators, auditors, timekeeper, JS team, and all who have contributed to the debate series deserve a big round of applause. We are all grateful for everyone who has helped, but special mention must be made to the staff at Harney's and the Toastmasters clubs for their ongoing contributions to these debates. To our sponsors, the Ministry of Education and Culture, Blenheim Trust, Walker's, Toastmasters Club, and Harney's, who have contributed generously to these debates. Thank you. I would also like to recognize and thank the teachers and coaches that prepared the students for the debates. The teachers, your contribution is great, and inspiring. Thank you. To the Sir Rupert Brightcliff Hall Committee, I say thank you. And to our audience, parents, teachers, and supporters. And last, but no means least, the reason why we're all here, the students, the debate team members, thank you. We're all very proud of you. And you did a fabulous job tonight. So again, well done. It's a very positive event. Thank you and good night.